Powerful People, Encyclopedia Galactica presents biographies of notable people in the galaxy. This week, Edmund Mahon. Always happiest in a suit, Edmund Mahon seems a natural in his present role. But he's in his last year as Prime Minister of the Alliance of Independent Systems, and no Prime Minister has ever been elected to a second term. Where did the Alliance's longest-serving Prime Minister come from? And why? 118-year-old Mahon has earthy roots. Born to a family of corn farmers on Birmingham in the Deso system in 3187, the infant Edmund found himself a citizen of the Federation. This was because the system had been annexed 13 years earlier, following the messy collapse of the galactic cooperative Galcop. As a diligent federal student, his talents were noticed early, and he had no trouble earning a scholarship to study law when he turned 18 in 3205. Early on in his studies, which exposed him to examples of corporate exploitation, Mahon became disillusioned by what he perceived as corruption within the federal legal system. Faced with the choice of keeping his head down and profiting like everyone else, Mahon decided to rebel, quietly. He switched courses, choosing to study political science, and studied hard to find out how to change the galaxy for the better, using politics. He didn't get to keep his scholarship money. A stipulation of being a federal scholar is that you're a loyal federal citizen, and a requirement of being a loyal federal citizen is that you don't criticise the federal government. One of the ways you're not supposed to criticise the federal government is by uploading holovids to your personal GalTube channel, calling for Deso to break away from the Federation to join the nascent Alliance. Unfortunately, that's exactly what Edmund Mahon did. So, the young Edmund Mahon became a mixologist, inventing such exotic cocktails as the Indy Manhattan, made with Neritus berries, Burnham bile distillate, and with yellow coup froth, as well as copious amounts of Indy Bourbon. So popular were his creations that he found himself promoted to manage the bar, which meant he no longer had time to mix his amazing drinks, and the bar he managed consequently lost many of its clients and began to slide into obscurity and eventual liquidation. However, Mahon claims that he gained valuable insights into how to manage a crowd from his time as a barman, namely, to give them alcohol until they stop complaining. Mahon's earliest foray into politics was to fail to be elected city mayor, a campaign that nonetheless won him widespread grassroots support as a reformer, and it was on the strength of this popular support that he became part of the successful campaign led by Irene Mendel for Deso to leave the Federation and join the Alliance. The campaign took a long time. Mahon joined it when he was 27, and Deso's succession coincided with the year of his 100th birthday. But it was worth the 73 years he devoted to the struggle. He became Deso's first planetary representative in the Alliance Assembly, a post that he held continuously until his successful bid to become the Prime Minister for the whole Alliance shooting match. Strangely, after all that history, one of Mahon's first acts as Prime Minister was to refuse to help the secessionists of Lu when they called for aid during their struggle against the Federation. As he explained to 7-year-old Jessica Braganza, who asked him what his favourite colour was during a school tour of the Prime Minister's residence, the authorities in Lu put out a call for aid. And what did the Alliance do? We turned them down. That would never happen on the Hollows, would it? I would have been at the head of the Alliance fleet, taking down the Fed capship with a well-aimed torpedo up the tailpipe. But life isn't like the Hollows. You need political and legal clarity. The Alliance is rigorous, you see. You can't join a voluntary association of free systems unless you can offer demonstrable proof of your freedom to choose. After hearing that explanation, young Jessica Braganza gave up her ambition to be a politician. But dreamy hippie ex-federal President Jasmina Halsey seems to have decided that Edmund Mahon was just what she needed, and managed to persuade Mahon to appoint her head of drug-induced hallucinations within the Alliance cabinet. In 3304, the Alliance unexpectedly discovered that it had a president as well as a prime minister. The previously unheard-of incumbent, Gibson Kincaid, tried to persuade the Alliance to grant him executive powers. Kincaid went around killing presidential candidates, discrediting Alliance admirals and attempting to usurp power, while Prime Minister Mahon muttered, "Oh dear, that doesn't seem right at all," somewhere in the background. It wasn't until the middle of 3305 that President Kincaid had his comeuppance, and the role of president was disbanded, leaving the Prime Minister back in charge of the Alliance. Quite what will happen when Edmund Mahon steps down is not clear. What will happen to his admittedly rather pointless Retributor Heat Damage Class 1 Fixed Mount Beam Laser? What will happen to the systems he has personal control over? Who will succeed him as Prime Minister? Will he invent any new cocktails? Tune in next week for another of the galaxy's powerful people.